Hi Annie, my name is Will. Now I was telling me that I should introduce myself. So I'm going to take these next few minutes to tell you a bit about myself, where I live, a bit about my upbringing, how I came into the truth, etc. This is kind of weird because I haven't uploaded a video to YouTube in some time, and it's a little bit too weird. But it's a pleasure to meet you, and again, um, let me get a chair. Give me 1 second. Okay. Again, it's nice to meet you, Annie. First thing I should tell you about myself is I grew up on 125th Street in Harlem, in Manhattan, New York, and I grew up in a family that's not inside the truth. Actually, I have no family members that are in the truth. Around the age of 8 or 9, um, I think it was 8, that my mother and my stepfather decided to move me and my sister to Cleveland, Ohio because of certain problems that were here. I think they started to realize that it wasn't a good place to raise children. I believe that was their mindset at the time, um, which was a good decision for us because maybe 2 years prior to that, my other stepfather had died and got killed, and that really tore my mother up. Her name is Marion, by the way. They moved us to Cleveland, and it was maybe around, I was probably like in the ninth grade when I first actually came in contact with the truth. We were attending some Pentecostal church over there, and my mother had told me that this couple by the name of George and Nevia, they wanted to teach us the Bible maybe for that summer. And, me being a kid, I didn't oppose anything. We were already attending church. What was one church with the next? I had no different. I didn't know how to tell the distinction. So I agreed to it. And that was my first encounter with the truth. Prior to that, my only interest was drawing. I love to draw. Um, all my life, I wanted to become a comic book artist. That's probably my only interest, the only thing I ever took seriously. As much as my stepfather had tried, he tried to put other interests in my mind just to get me, well rounded, but I took to none of it. I was stubborn and hard headed. But yeah, that was my only interest prior to the truth. Obviously, when you learn the truth, you start realizing that your priorities have to change a bit. So my interest started to change slightly. I started to realize that you can't invest too much into the system because you might end up going down with it. So my interest started to change. But yeah, that couple, George and Evie, I forgot their last names, but this brother and sister from Ohio, they had taught me. They had put a lot of hours into me, and they taught me a lot, But little did they know at the time that I didn't believe in God anyway. I had a hard time believing simply because I didn't feel an emotional attachment. So if I didn't feel an emotional attachment, what was the point in believing in God in the first place? So, but they helped me to understand the distinction. At least they put in enough in me in my training to help me to understand the distinction between false religion and the truth. I remember specific scriptures that had a profound effect on me. Psalms 37:29, the righteous themselves will possess the earth and reside on it forever. Matthew 5:5, which correlates to that with the meek shall inherit the earth. Happy are the mild-tempered, since they will inherit the earth. Proverbs chapter 2, the last two verses. Those were were scriptures that were profound on me because I was raised Pentecostal a little, but primarily my family is into Catholicism. And I was brought up with the belief that if when you die, you go to heaven. And I remember the turmoil that was inside of me with realizing, that's not the truth. So I guess that turmoil started to make me interested in other topics. Okay, if that's wrong, what else is wrong? So I started to find out the distinction between Jesus and Jehovah, that Jesus wasn't God, that the Trinity wasn't real. I remember John chapter 6, verse 38, where Jesus said that he came down to do his Father's will. That was profound on me because for the first time I saw Jesus as secondary to someone who was higher than him, and something that you don't really learn in Catholicism because they always teach that both of them are the same. But those were profound scriptures to help me to realize the distinction between false religion and true. And then other events in my life, which I think are too long to get into in just this introduction, are reasons why I started to actually believe in God. I started to see his hand maneuvering. And I think one of the reasons I fell in love with him is his interest in me and his dealing with me, because I'm no easy piece of work, especially in my younger days. And to see his dealing with me when no other human being would, putting in the time when no other human being would. I remember I moved away from my mother and my stepfather when I was around 16, 17 years old. So to see Jehovah's personal interests, I think it was John 6:44, where Jesus said that no one could come to me unless the Father draws him. And then when he told the Samaritan woman in John, or the earlier chapters, I think chapter 4, where he told the Samaritan woman that my Father is looking for such like wants to worship him with spirit and truth. So it was Jehovah's pursuit, in my case, that got me interested in, okay, this person's actually interested. So it's not some vague entity that just wants to be worshipped. He actually has an interest. So that was that started, getting me interested in the truth. And there you have it. That's why today my allegiance is in the truth. I got my things here and there, but Satan and Jehovah is fully aware that you can't change the way I'm already. There's a word for that I'm looking for, but it's already ingrained in me. There's nothing, no ideology of this world. There's no propaganda. There's no teaching that's going to get me to change my mind that this is the truth. Being one of Jehovah's Witnesses is the truth. So I just wanted to give you a brief, I just wanted to give you a brief history on, from my family to now. Now, today, the good thing is that a lot of my family members throughout the years, Jehovah has put in enough time and effort through his witnesses for my family to start to recognize that there is truth to this organization. They've let go of a lot of teachings that aren't parallel to the scriptures, and a lot of them are coming around. So I'm optimistic, and I love them dearly, and I'll never stop working on helping them come into the truth. Especially like my sister. I have a sister named Melody, who she just recently had maybe a year or so ago. A little longer than that, but she had an issue with blood at the hospital, and she stood up for Jehovah even though she wasn't in the truth, even though that was difficult. So I'll never forget that about her. And so they're coming around. I'm an optimistic, and I'm Jehovah's way more powerful than Satan. So there's nothing Satan can do to stop someone from coming to the truth if Jehovah has an interest in them and if he sees something. So I have a lot of confidence in him. So Annie, I just wanted to introduce myself. I now live in the Bronx, New York again. I left Cleveland. I actually moved around a lot. My mother and my stepfather, they were nomadic people. They loved to move around. and they moved me from New York, several places in Ohio, several places in New York, to Puerto Rico. I spent my last few, maybe 4 or 5 years in Puerto Rico, in a place called Dorado, um, which was very beautiful, but financially it's very difficult. And I knew that, and I didn't even bear the responsibility of the financial burdens. That was my parents. Um, I live again in the Bronx. Actually, can show you outside my window if people tend to be a little more interested in that. this, is, this is outside my window. Oddly enough, it's quiet here. But this is just a brief introduction, and I'll talk to you soon. And hope to hear from you.